On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the things that you need to own if you are a business owner when it comes to your website and domains and all the things. Welcome to the Up in My Business podcast with me, Lex Lancaster, where you'll get an inside look at all things tech, business, and my life as a physical therapist turned digital operations expert. You'll hear all about my lessons as a business owner, the ins and outs of tech for your business, and more. From SEO, websites, and email marketing to automations, launches, and copywriting, I've got you. I'm so excited you're here. Let's dive in. Today's episode is brought to you by Jane, a clinic management software and EMR. Now, we all know that choosing the right EMR can feel a bit overwhelming, especially when you're just starting out. You're trying to juggle both your practice needs and your budget, and that's not always the easiest combo. Well, that's why Jane came up with the best new balance plan. It includes the essential features you need to keep things running smoothly in your clinic without the extra fluff that you don't. One-on-one telehealth, unlimited support, email reminders, and more are included, no matter which plan you choose. So if you're looking for an EMR that helps you focus on your patients, not your costs, Jane is here for you, just like a part-time assistant. Plans start as low as $39 a month in the US, $54 a month in Canada. Visit jane.app/pricing to learn more. And if you're ready to get started, use my code LEX1MO. Again, that's LEX1MO at sign up for a 1-month grace period on your new Jane account. And you will see that linked as well in the show notes. Welcome back to another episode of Up in My Business. I am excited to chit chat with you today, coming to you not live, but I'm recording late tonight on a Sunday night. It's been a very full day. My voice is really tired. Rupert is also I'm looking behind me. He's in my chair right now. So I'm recording with Rupert in my office. I love that guy, but I am going to be keeping today pretty short, not because it's late, but because I have some exciting news. So I start with life and business updates. Life stuff, everything is same old, same old. Can't really complain here. It's supposed to rain again this week, which is great because California needs rain because we didn't have rain for a whole 8 months. So it's supposed to rain again this week, which is great. Just got back from hanging out with some friends at a local brewery. We don't always go out on a Sunday night, but decided to get a drink with some friends. So that was great. And then that's really it, really. I mean, there's nothing too crazy going on here. Definitely enjoying the, back in the routine after the holiday season and all of the craziness that was January. But with that being said, business updates, things continue to, business, I guess. I'm going to have an announcement in a second, and I'm really excited about it, but, nothing really new to report. I mean, if you listen to this podcast, you know that I am booking out. I also just limited my schedule so that way I only take a certain number of discovery calls and external clients. So people who are not currently clients. So one-off coaching calls. I also raised my hourly coaching rate last week, 2 Fridays ago. So my hourly rate did increase, and it was the first time I increased my rate since November of 2022. So that was quite some time ago. And I'll likely stay where I am for, the foreseeable future. I just felt like it was definitely time with a wait list, and I just felt like it was needed with my current hourly rate. So that went up 2 weeks ago. And then the other thing, and I'm really excited, insert drum roll here. This past weekend, I also developed you ready for it? SEO crash course. So I filmed an SEO crash course that is 75 minutes long. You can complete it in, I'm going to say, if you have an hour lunch break, a lunch break and a half. If you have a half an hour lunch break, you can do it in 3 lunch breaks. Or if you have one 1.5 hour time slot on the weekend, you can also complete it then. So I did film that this weekend, and it is available for purchase. So feel free to grab it. It is $47. You can click the link in my bio Jeepers Creepers, link in the show notes and grab that there. It will be live on my site, for the foreseeable future, as far as I'm concerned. It's a great place for people who want to learn SEO but are waiting for my SEO school, or they're not really sure that they're ready for my SEO school, but they want to get started. So created that. That is hanging out there for $47. Feel free to grab it. It's ready to go for you. And I'm really excited for people to dive in. You will get, I think when I say it's a 75-minute crash course, you're like, well, what am I actually going to get in that amount of time? It's not a lot of time. You're going to learn the foundational information, very, very tactical steps to start taking so that you can get started on your SEO journey. And I give you website tips. We talk about keywords. We talk about getting started with content. Like it's honestly so good to get started with if you're someone who's just like, I know nothing about SEO and I just want to, dip my toe in the water and do something while I wait for SEO school, or just get started doing this and then we'll see what comes next. So I really recommend checking that out. You can click the link in the show notes to learn more. And today's episode, so I can jump right into that, we're going to talk about something that I always feel like I shouldn't go too deep into like technical SEO stuff on this podcast, only because I don't have a ton of people. I'm going to say not that I don't have a ton of people who are familiar with it, but I don't want this podcast episode to be like, it doesn't apply to me. So I am going to focus on more of like the educational component of this. And this is gone over in the intro to SEO crash course that I just created. The reason being, and why I want to talk about what I'm going to talk about, is because I feel like it's like smoke and mirrors, if you will. And I don't really love when topics are, portrayed as that. I think that there are a lot of reasons to not give like the full story about something, but just because like SEO is a big ass topic and there's a lot to learn and there's a lot of technical components and it's really difficult to just be like, here's the surface. But what I want to talk about is what I like to call black hat techniques. So what that means is there are a slew of techniques out there where you essentially manipulate Google to see your website with certain keywords on it. So you start to rank for those keywords and you basically just kind of hope that Google's not going to figure it out. And it helps you increase your ranks, but you really don't hold the rank well because Google ends up figuring out like that was a technique that shouldn't have been used. They shouldn't be ranking for that thing. It doesn't make sense. I don't want to keep them there at that spot because they used a tactic to get there that isn't legitimate. And we're going to talk about one specific one. And if you're curious, yes, I go through this stuff in the SEO crash course because I do think, and it's in the myths section. So I actually break down a whole bunch of SEO myths and teach you some really easy concepts to take away. Just like, actually, that's not true. So the one that I want to talk about is, and I get this question a lot. So if you are listening to this podcast and you've asked me this question, know that you are not the only one. I've heard this from tons of people. It's also on like a lot of platforms to do this. What people tend to say or ask is, can I turn my website text white on a white background so that way on the front end, like when a consumer goes to my website, you can't see the text, but it starts to rank me for that keyword because I've put a lot of text saying that word. So let's just do an example. If I was trying to rank for pelvic health physical therapy, what I would do is I would put a text box on my website, font color is white, and I would just write pelvic health physical therapy like 20 times. Then I would turn that text white so it matched the background of my website. My background is white. So when you looked at the actual website, you wouldn't see it. And that is what we call a black hat technique. And when you do that, what people are trying to do is they're trying to do what we call increase keyword density. So the only way to rank for something is to talk about it. So in this case, someone is trying to rank for pelvic health physical therapy. They're putting pelvic health physical therapy as a term on their website 20 times and then turning it white. So that way it's not on the front end of the website. The client can't see that, but Google will read it. So here's the thing, Google will read it, but Google will also read it as spammy, right? And as a black hat technique. So it won't consider it to be valid. So when Google goes and does its checks, it's one of those things that Google's going to flag and say, that's not right. Like that is not legitimate. So when I say this, and like I said, I'm going to keep this episode really short because this is what I wanted to talk to you about. When it comes to SEO, there are times of the year where Google releases what we call updates. During those updates, a lot of websites will have decreased traffic. And it's one of those things where you can't avoid it. It's just a Google update and then your traffic gets hit and people complain about it on all the platforms, but your website gets hit. And then what happens is you recover. So your stats recover afterward and typically keep growing, right? That'd be ideal. Well, when you engage in something like a black hat SEO tactic, like turning the text white on a white background, the problem is Google sees that, it flags it, and then guess what? It will punish you for that. So if you're doing your website, right, and you're putting all your copy in your site, and you choose to engage in something like a black hat technique, when those Google updates roll out, or just in general, like when your website is being crawled by Google on the daily, in general, your website will then get punished, which is not good because now we're essentially throwing up a flag to Google that our website is spammy and not using the correct technique and trying to essentially bamboozle the system, if you will. And that's not a good thing. So the flag is thrown up and then it's like, well, you tried to bypass the system that we create, so we're not going to rank you. And then after any of those Google updates or just a regular website crawl, your website won't recover well or it won't improve in rankings. So the long and the short there is that you don't want to engage in these tactics. And I do talk, briefly about like what the myths are and why we don't do that in the SEO crash course, as well as a lot of other things that you can actually get started with. So that way, when you get started, you're actually doing things that help you, not just like randomly choosing techniques and Googling random things, how meta, Googling things to see like, what can I implement? You get really tactical tips inside that crash course. So if you are interested in learning more, feel free to enroll in the SEO crash course. I'd love to see you in there. And then if you have questions about, the black hat techniques or things that you've heard as far as SEO goes, I'd love to hear them. And as always, if you have episode recommendations, please feel free to send them over. I'd love to obviously speak on topics that you're interested in, but that's all I have for you today. So without further ado, thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great week. I will catch you next time.